Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm just going to talk about stuff that I've been thinking about, I guess. I don't really know what to make videos about, so I figured I would just make a video about things that have been going on in my life in regards to cameras and all my gear, etc. I guess I should clarify. So I'm working as a freelance video guy. I guess I started trying to make a career business out of doing freelance just in the past year, starting in 2019. I just graduated film school in December of 2018 and had been doing some freelance stuff while I was in school, but after graduating, clearly that was the time to try to make a living on it. And it's kind of been up and down a little bit. I've had some good months, had some not so good months, had to supplement my income doing other things, which I don't think is uncommon in this day and age. So it doesn't, it's not getting me down or anything like that. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I've done a variety of different types of jobs over the last few years and over the last year, but I would say that like mainly the types of paid stuff I've been doing have fallen into a couple of categories. The first category is commercials or I guess promotional pieces for local businesses. So these are pretty small budgets with minimal outlay for gear, and so that means that on the jobs we're typically using our own gear. There might be a little bit of discretionary money to rent some gear here and there, but usually that's not the case most of the time. So the second type of job would be live events. So that would be weddings, concerts, recitals, seminars, corporate events, et cetera, et cetera. And again, here the money is, or the budget for these is pretty low. And I find that whatever discretionary money there is, it's better spent to hire more shooters rather than, get better or more gear. Third is real estate. So I've been doing some real estate photography and real estate video. And at least I've been, pretty much on the low end of the spectrum for real estate. So there's really not much need for a lot of different gear. Typically a full frame camera, because that's what they want, and like a 16 to 35 and a gimbal. And okay, so and maybe a drone. And then lastly, it's just personal projects slash YouTube. And these types of projects, unless you're making money on them, shouldn't really factor into your gear decisions because, once again, you're not making money on them. But this is where I find myself wanting to spend the most money on gear, on cameras, lenses, lights, sliders, blah, 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 blah. But once again, I have to really remind myself that I'm not making money on these projects, so that would be really dumb. That's me. And I guess over the years since I started in trying to get into film and video, I've kind of come at it a little bit haphazardly, not really knowing what I was doing. So when my first camera that I bought, I got a Nikon D3300. I knew nothing about video. I barely knew anything about photography. Didn't want to. I mean, I was kind of shocked at the time about like how expensive DSLRs were. So, I don't know if like Nikon D3300 is pretty much like their entry-level APS-C style camera. They've got newer models out now, I think the D3400 or whatever. So, but that's what I had, not knowing any different or any better. And so that summer, when I got out of the Army and then came back home and enrolled in school, I got a couple new lenses. All I had was a kit lens. So I got the 50 millimeter 1.8, and I got a Sigma. It was like a 17 to 50 millimeter, which was an awesome lens, and a Tamron 70 to 200. The next camera that I got was the Sony A7S II, which was awesome. That was like my dream camera at the time. And to go along with that, I bought like a set of Rokinon Cine Primes. I got the set that came with the 24 all the way to the 85. So that was my main camera for a couple years. I eventually splurged on an Ursa Mini Pro just because that was another one I was lusting over. I kept that one for about a year, maybe even less, and then just sold it because it was like, why do I spent so much money on this camera and I'm not making any money using it? It was so stupid. But anyway, that's kind of about the time when I started transitioning away from just school and into actual video production, because I guess my mindset when I was in school was that I want to be in film. So I was thinking in terms of like film gear. So I had, the Rokinon Cine Primes, which, are not great lenses by any means, but they're, that's kind of like where you are. I don't know. That's kind of like the mindset that you have when you get those lenses. But anyway, like I said, transitioning to actually getting work and like finding that the work is more about run and gun and more about being fast and flexible. So I started selling off those primes and getting zoom lenses because it's just, you know, you can carry 2 zooms as opposed to 4 or 5 primes. It just makes more sense for the type of stuff I was doing. So yeah, sold off. I've since sold off all of those. I don't have any more of them anymore. But anyway, back to my wife. Yeah, she was really cool about buying me stuff. She bought me the Pocket Cinema camera, the original one. She bought me some Micro Four Thirds lenses to go with it. That's where I got the 12 to 35. She bought me Voigtlanders. Man, she really splurged on me. You know, I had like these great Micro Four Thirds lenses. So after I sold the Ursa Mini Pro, I used that money, which I should have just put all that money back on my credit card, or to pay off my credit card. But anyway, I took some of it and got the GH5S, which I've had for now a year, about a year, a little bit more than. And that's been the camera that's made the most money for me. Like this past year, I've used it and the A7S II on jobs, but I would say 70, probably 80 to 85% of the time, I'm using the GH5S. I have all this kind of like different gear accumulated over the course, not even really that long of a time period. Oh, I had the Shogun Inferno, which I don't even know why I bought the Shogun Inferno. I bought that when I had the A7S II thinking, man, I really need that little bit extra image quality that the Shogun Inferno is going to give me with the A7S II. Total waste. What other gear? Got an action camera. So I guess like the side point of this video is like YouTube is a great resource, but it's also like a source of constant anxiety and I guess just like gear acquisition syndrome, because you know you just watch all these videos and people are always, you know, getting access to like the newest stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, I could use an action cam. No, you can't. Like that guy, maybe what he does, he needs an action cam, but me, I don't need an action cam. Didn't need that. Never used it. Sold it. Sold the Tamron 24 to 70 that I reviewed last year. Great lens. Yeah, so anyway, I sold it. I would never really loved that lens for video. Like I talked about it pretty in depth in the video that I made about it. So anyway, I sold that. I sold the Tamron 70 to 200 for Nikon mount. Even though I could adapt it to both my A7S and my GH5, I'm finding, I guess the broader point of this video is that I'm finding that I'm trying to consolidate like towards like one system and just choosing one, you know, and I feel like I'm choosing Micro Four Thirds because it's cheaper, the lenses are smaller, and it's adaptable. So even if you want to use Canon on it, Canon EF, you can use Canon EF. You can use Nikon. You can use like all sorts of weird lenses from the past. You can use PL lenses on it if you need to. They're coming out, like there's all sorts of fucking anamorphic lenses that are coming out for it, which is a really cool thing because like anamorphic lenses for, you know, cinema cameras are tens of thousands of dollars. They're super expensive, but they're coming out with sub $1,000 anamorphic lenses that look pretty good. I don't have one. I don't think, like there's one that's coming out that's like a 50 millimeter. I feel like with anamorphic, you need a set. You don't need just one focal length, you know, like maybe if you're doing a music video or a commercial or something, you can use one focal length. But if you were using, like making a short film or something, you would want like a set of them. So I definitely would wait. So there's lots of cool stuff coming out for Micro Four Thirds. Whenever things call for it, if there's ever the budget for things that, you know, somebody wants a different camera, you can always rent. And that's the other thing, like depending on the kind of market you're in, the market that I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a big enough market where there's multiple rental houses. There's like tons of production companies. There's lots of productions going on in the city all the time where you can rent whatever the hell you want. You know, they've got, I mean, there's Arri cameras, there's Red cameras, there's anamorphic lenses all over town, and there's no need to buy, you know, crazy cameras. Like, I mean, the FX9 is coming out, and that's a really cool camera. I would love to have one, but they've already got one for rent. This rental company already has them, and until I'm making the kinds, or like doing the kinds of projects that are going to pay that off fast and then make money from it going forward, like it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm done going after like the newest thing every time someone does a video about it. So that's what I guess I'm talking about, like just making smart choices, analyzing like what it is that you need to do for the vast majority of projects that you do, and then you can always rent whatever it is that you're lacking. And don't go crazy. Like, I don't know, I just feel like there's always something new coming out, and it's always tempting to just try to get to just keep spending money, keep trying to get new cameras. But it's just a losing battle, you know. There's always something new coming out, and there's always going to be a better camera than the one that you have, you know, no matter what. And I'm much happier and less like, I don't know, less remorse when I have the, you know, the limitations of like the GH5S. Like, fine, I don't, you know, I'm blowing up my highlights in this situation, so I either need to accept that or, you know, add light into the scene. But if I have like an FX9, which I just spent, you know, $14,000 on altogether, and I'm having a similar problem where it's like, damn it, you know, where's the dynamic range of this? You know, where are these 15 stops of dynamic range? Why am I still losing the highlights? You know, why are my shadows still, you know, grainy or something like that? You know, I can accept that on a $2,000 camera, whereas, I mean, if I spent $14,000 and I'm still having limitations, that's a lot harder to swallow. You know, like, why does the iPhone 11 have more dynamic range than, you know, this Red camera does or whatever software? Like the whole debate, like it's just this endless, it's just clickbait shit, you know, like full frame versus blah, blah, blah. Why you need the full frame look, it's bullshit, you know? Yeah, and I think aside from a camera body, I mean, you do have to have a camera, unless you just want to rent every time. But if you want to go out and shoot any time of the day, whenever you want, you're going to need a camera. So yeah, you do need a camera. But I think that the things that are worth investing money in that are going to last the longest are the kinds of things that are like not subject to technological obsolescence. So grip equipment, light stands, C stands, other like you know, equipment like clamps, like Mathellini clamps, and all those kinds of things. Like those are, it's good to invest some money in those. Typically not like so expensive, and they're going to last a lifetime. You know, a tripod and a fluid head, having a good tripod, having a good fluid head, something that's not going to go out of date. Yeah, there might be new tripods that come out that work a little bit easier than the one that you have. Maybe it's lighter, but whatever, yours is still going to last. You know, maybe a slider that's, you know, just a bare bones slider that you can just throw your head on it and you can, but I mean, just even think about like all these like sliders that have come out in the past couple of years, and it was like the Rhino slider, that had like all the motion control. Yeah, those are cool, and they might you might have a business case for using that on a regular basis. But unless you do have that specific business case that you can make that says, if I have this thing with this motion control, I'm going to be doing product shots. You know, that's my jam, and that's how I'm going to make my money. If you don't have that, then don't buy it. You know, like rent it when you need it. I think the only piece of technology that's subject to going out of date that I have that's been really, really worth it for me has been a Ronin S. That's the one piece of equipment that I bought over the past year, aside from a camera, that's been like a moneymaker for me. But anyway, my point was stuff that is not going to go out of date. You know, your lenses for the most part are going to last. Grip equipment, tripod, you know, those types of stabilizers are going to last. And then everything else, like I mentioned before, if it's a niche product like a motion slider, I mean, make sure that it's something that you're going to be using constantly. If it's something that you just think is cool, don't buy it. Just hold off and let that urge go by the wayside, and then until something else catches your fancy. But yeah, I think that was it. I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to, you know, this is kind of what I've been thinking about lately. I just sold off a ton of stuff, and I'm just hoping that I can contain my urge to splurge on stuff that I really don't need. And if I do use some of that money to buy, it's going to be stuff that is going to make sense for me and my business at the time frame, and not be something that I just want, like a Pocket 4K. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, share your stories with me about your gear acquisition problems or your triumphs. When have you succeeded in not buying something that you really didn't need? All right, cool. Thanks for watching this video.